If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. My name is Chris Evan. I am the CEO of Survival Dispatch. Beside me, we've got our in-house EOD, master EOD technician. Survival Dispatch. Beside me. Got some audio feedback there.
That was me, sorry.
And we have our in-house CIA operative, Jeff MD, aka 007, and we're fully aware 007 is British, not American. That's okay. The joke still stands. And our in-house subject matter expert on Intel, S2. And tonight we're going to be discussing the connection between Hezbollah and TdA, Tren de Aragua. We've spoken many times on the connections between Hezbollah and the Sinaloa cartel. And that relationship goes even further down to the gang level, the TdA level, which the connections are pretty tight. Before we start that, if you head on over to patreon.com/survival dispatch, sign up for a free membership. You can pull the brief down for every episode, has links to everything that we show and discuss, and then some. And if you're tight on time, we're going to give you the Cliff Notes version in the first 10 minutes, and then we'll dive into it deeper after that. But if you've got the brief, you can go ahead and consume it at your leisure. I guess before we actually start on TdA and Hezbollah, I do want to mention the passing of Jimmy Carter. A very nice letter down here in the corner that Donald Trump wrote to the Carter family. I will say that I was never a fan of Jimmy Carter as a statesman, but he was an exceptional human being. And I think he truly and genuinely cared about people's well-being. He just wasn't suited to being the president of the most powerful country in the world.
He was a better ex-president than a president.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. All right. So this first video we've got here from Fox News has our friend Victor Avila, and I spoke to Victor actually earlier today. He's been on Survival Dispatch News a bunch of times. So Victor is one of the special agents with ICE who was shot up in the Fast and Furious gun scandal in Mexico, and he's a preeminent expert when it comes to these guys. So this is I think it's about a 4-minute video. I'm not going to play the whole 4 minutes. There's an intro. We'll get through that. Then Victor comes on screen, and once he gives his initial points, we'll hit the pause button there, and we'll start the panel discussion.
Holiday shoppers flock to stores for last-minute gifts. Many notice their wallets emptying faster than in years past. And
hold on a second. It looks like it fast-forwarded to another page. There we go. Hold on 1 second. So I'm having problems with playing videos off of Fox News. It keeps skipping around on me. Let's try this way. All right, here we go.
Invasion in Aurora, Colorado. The police are calling a gang incident. Most of the suspects believed to be Venezuelan migrants. No confirmation yet that they are members of the brutal gang, Tren de Aragua. But police have detained 19 people after a man and a woman were kidnapped, and then they were tortured for 5 hours. They were pistol whipped and beaten. One was stabbed. Another, in an excruciating detail, had her fingernails ripped out. Police say of this heinous crime that the suspects are undocumented. This happened at the same time, at the same place rather, as this Aurora apartment complex that armed men stormed back in August, all happening in this same apartment complex. 2 of those men were confirmed to be members of Tren de Aragua. Listen.
I had a discussion with an individual from the White House, and that occurred back on September the 23rd, I believe. And that person basically told me that, hey, once these immigrants get across the border, that's all we really care about. And to me, that's a problem. And so Aurora, we are now in the process, as many other cities throughout this nation, of trying to pick up the pieces of an incredibly bad system that was in place.
These people are obviously fed up hearing that there's no problem in Aurora, Colorado. Let's bring in Victor Avila, retired ICE supervisory special agent. He knows gangs and this territory well, a lot of experience back in Mexico with the Los Zetas drug cartel. Victor, good to have you back on the program. I want to start actually by playing this from ABC News this week. The Sunday show happened back in October. Given this news, it's quite relevant. Watch this.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs.
I mean, that's a moment that keeps on giving. How incredulous the vice president-elect is, Victor. What's your take on this crime? What markings do you see in it of potential gang activity?
A couple of things, Martha. One is that I'm glad that the city officials and police are publicly acknowledging this, because the locals and my contacts there in Colorado have known this for a long, long time. And they've been terrorized by the Tren de Aragua for a long, long time. And, you know, one of the things that I have been studying Tren de Aragua for a long time, I've been getting a lot of updates and briefings from a lot of specialists that deal with this. This is not a gang. This is reminiscent of a cartel because of the organization, because of the backing of money, finances, activity with the actual cartel in Mexico. And more troubling is their association with, obviously, the link with Venezuela and the Maduro regime, but especially the contact that they have and the relationship with Hezbollah and Iran. And I've been trying to kind of put this out the last several months out there, because this is what my intelligence contacts are telling me to say, please mention this, Victor, because this is how it makes these group of individuals a lot more dangerous, which makes it a big national security issue.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that theory again, and it's a very strong one. Just put the map up real quick. We have to go, but Venezuelan prison gang presence spreads across the United States, and clearly this is a destabilizing impact on our country to have this infiltration, you know, that you discuss, and the potential ties to Hezbollah. Just a real quick back-end thought on that, Victor, before we go.
Well, it just I studied and investigated the cartels for many years, and this is just like them. These are terrorist organizations, in my opinion, that should be dealt that way. The old way that I used to investigate, and those old ways of going after these guys is now a null and void, and really a stale way of doing this. We have to approach them a very different way, and I think we are starting January 20th.
All right. So that interview, Mike, was 10 days ago with Victor. You've met him. We've had him on, like I said, a number of times. We got intel back in the 90s that indicated Hezbollah and the Sinaloa cartel were kind of joined at the hip. And now we've got people from Iran, Hezbollah, that look and sound just like Mexicans, same accent, same appearance. And this TdA stuff landed on our radar a few months ago, thanks to Victor being also tied to Hezbollah. And what he doesn't mention in that interview is the amount of money that's flowing from Iran to the TdA, and also the training that Hezbollah is giving the TdA. These are not just street punks, right? I mean, they have skill sets that you would typically attribute to terrorist groups, much more sophisticated than, say, a gang like MS-13. Go ahead and roll with that, Mike.
Yeah, so a lot of this is also tied to there's a huge diaspora of both Iranian and Lebanese people that live in both Venezuela and Colombia, and a lot of them moved in there back in the 70s and the 80s. And Hezbollah moved into the area originally assisting the cartels, like the Cali cartel and the Medellin cartels back in the 80s during the war on drugs. And then, of course, and primarily they were working with FARC. back then, the Marxist guerrillas. And when they got pushed out of Colombia and into Venezuela, well, Hezbollah went with them, and they're still there. They're still doing their thing. And it's that God, what is that unit?
410, 910.
Yeah, Unit 910 from Hezbollah. They're the ones that primarily do that. Now, there's not a whole lot of actual money going from Iran into there. A lot of this is all self-serving. You've got Unit 910 makes their own money from these organizations, and then these organizations, they make their own money. A lot of it stays there. Now, there is money going back to Iran to help finance things on that side, but the big money that I'm worried about that's coming into TdA is because TdA is being used now by these organizations as a human trafficking conduit, and TdA is moving people all the time. Well, you can put anybody into that pipeline that you want to at this point. And at this point, we're looking at the Greater Islamic Army. I have a bad feeling is moving people into the U.S., Canada, Mexico via that pipeline.
Yeah, so let's close the loop on a few things here before we go to Jeff next. So you mentioned Hezbollah, Unit 910. So for those people who aren't familiar with that, you've got the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is obviously part of the Iranian government, which sponsors Hezbollah in the Middle East. And then you've got this Hezbollah Unit 910, which is more of global operations, and they're typically tasked with self-funding, that they have to find means to raise money. But there's been multiple bank transactions made where they've been able to trace $25,000 here, $100,000 there of Unit 910 and TdA, money going in both directions. So there is money, number one. Number two, there's training that's been happening. And if you look at some of the assassinations committed by the Sinaloa cartel over the past 30 years, when they blow somebody's car up, you being an EOD guy would recognize that they have the Iranian fingerprints all over it as far as what the Hezbollah terrorists in Mexico have taught the cartels. And then the next piece to it that's really important on this that makes TdA different than the others is TdA is very opportunistic. TdA doesn't typically get in battles with other large organizations. They'd rather work for them in whatever that capacity may be. Now, there's some smaller turf wars, say when TdA ended up in Chicago and they took over some neighborhoods. There were some fights with the Bloods and the Crips, those sort of gangs. But on the whole, from the big picture, is they're perfectly happy to work with Sinaloa cartel, Hezbollah, everybody.
Everyone.
Whoever wants to pay the money, that they'll do that. But this connection back to Hezbollah is basically the enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine. So Jeff, why don't you pick that up and run with that piece of how
I don't think Tren de Aragua is really ideological at all. I mean, their ideology is money. Give me money, give me money. And Hezbollah, and them and Hezbollah are in the same area in northern South America. And there was as Mike pointed out, there was a big Lebanese diaspora in that area. They went there, they were businessmen, they're tradesmen. You know, they went there, established commercial ties. I mean, they're very commercially oriented as a people. Well, Hezbollah, like most gangs, will feed on their own people first. You know, like the Vietnamese gangs pick on the Vietnamese immigrants. They don't know to go after, white guys and Mexicans and things like that. So it was a rife ground for them to go in there and I think their main purpose for getting in there was not to attack the United States. It was to make money and send money back to Lebanon to fund the political side of Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah spent a lot of money in Lebanon, doing social stuff to win the hearts and minds of the people. But they set up clinics. They take care of old people. They, if they were poor, they'd give them food. All these nice things, sort of like what Al Capone would do. He would make, he'd buy soup for poor people. But that takes money, and Lebanon was dirt poor at the time, so they were taking money There were also a bunch in along Western Africa, the western coast of Africa. There are a lot of little pockets of Lebanese businessmen and Hezbollah taking advantage of that as well. But now when they want to come here, they're in the right place at the right time. You got Tren who can smuggle people, and Hezbollah goes, hey, we can use that. And that's exactly what they're doing.
Really good point, Jeff. I want to just, before I pick that up and go to S2 as well, that Victor Avila said to me in an offline conversation that the reason there's a large TdA presence, for example, in Chicago, New York City, and Miami, is that they have large Venezuelan immigrant communities, not bad people, people who've come from Venezuela, let's say, just normal people. And the reason that TdA goes into those areas is because the Venezuelan immigrants, the legitimate immigrants to the country, are scared to death of TdA because they know just how violent and terrible that they are, which makes it really easy for them to gain a toehold. That's how they get their beachhead. They just go where there's Venezuelans in numbers, and their reputation precedes them, and then they're off to the races. But the other stuff you mentioned is super relevant, and I'll pull up a quick article here. So this is News Nation now. So essentially, this is a very short article, but it stitches together how they're coming across the border with TdA, exactly as you describe it. So there will be apprehensions, let's say, of Hezbollah terrorists with TdA, and sometimes even with people from Sinaloa. And they're essentially in cahoots, all three of them together. And of course, that's how we stitch Iran, Hezbollah, Hezbollah Unit 910, TdA, Sinaloa, all of these people who hate us together. Actually, right here, an Iranian man told Border Patrol he paid $25,000 to a Venezuelan gang, which was TdA, and he did it through Hezbollah. So they were doing exactly what you just said. They were facilitating that. And I'll get off of this article and go to S2 for his input in a second, but check this out. Halfway down this very short article, agents turn to e-bikes to patrol the border. So we were the first survival prepping channel out there to promote e-bikes for potential bug out purposes or transportation when the shit hits the fan, so on and so forth. And it's funny to see them use an official usage like that. I've got two of them sitting here that were sent to us a few months ago, and they're both over 50 mile an hour e-bikes, and they both have a 200-mile range. It's two batteries, but still, they're no longer just a toy. They definitely have purpose. So S2, on your side, since you're knee deep in intel all the time, give us your take on the connection in particular between Hezbollah and TdA.
Well, judging on what I know about TdA, it's like Jeff said, they're opportunistic. They tend to go after their own people. It's the same with any ethnicity out there. You know, MS-13 was the same way. They went after their own people, and then when they started turning into drugs, then they started going after other people that were getting into turf wars with them. You know, they were started in Tocarón prison in Aragua, Venezuela. But I don't really have much more to offer other than what Mike and Jeff has already said, other than that if there is some ties to the Venezuelan government and this gang, is that there's also the Iraqi Ba'athist Socialist Party that's behind this as well.
Yeah.
Do you mind? Go ahead, Jeff, if you want to jump in on that.
Yeah, because Mike had hit on something he'd mentioned briefly. But you got to realize these Lebanese have lived in northern South America for multiple generations now. So they look, talk, and act like Colombians, like Venezuelans. You would not know the difference. But they're still Lebanese, and they're still Muslims, and they're still Hezbollah. But they could pass as any, you know, Joe Colombian or Jose Colombian that you would find.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I've got another short video here, and Victor is in this video as well, but I'll probably stop it before then so that we're not repeating the same information.
stationed in Texas have been arrested on human smuggling charges. According to the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, soldiers Emilio Mendoza Lopez and Angel Palma were arrested last week as they were attempting to bring a Mexican national and 2 Guatemalan nationals into the country illegally. A third soldier, the alleged facilitator of the entire operation, was arrested days later. All 3 were stationed near Waco, Texas. And the road some migrants take to cross over the southern border can be dangerous, and we are learning now just how much some are willing to pay for that risk. Texas authorities recently caught dozens of migrants who illegally crossed the border, saying they came from several countries and included some called special interest migrants. So let's get out to correspondent Allie Bradley live for us in Texas with some more details. So Allie, what do we know about this large group?
Yeah, hey, Nicole. So this man actually came over with a large group, and he was interviewed by Border Patrol this week. He was from Iran, saying that he paid $25,000 to get here. Now, that is pretty much on par with what Iranian nationals are paying. Now, it is the potential tie to the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua that has law enforcement down here concerned right now. So what we know here is that that man says that he traveled from Dubai to Brazil. Brazil's a very easy country to get into. They have very lax visa requirements. So then he eventually made his way across the border in Maverick County, Texas, in the Del Rio sector. Now, that man was part of a group of nearly 300 that was apprehended at the border. Authorities say that group included 7 special interest immigrants from Iran. One former Homeland Security agent I spoke with says that that is potentially concerning, considering Iran's alleged ties between the Middle East militant group Hezbollah that Iran supports, along with the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua.
So, Jeff, quick question for you. What's a special interest immigrant?
Special interest aliens are people from countries that have terrorist concerns or counterintelligence concerns. That would be Russian, that would be China, but most of them are terrorists. You're looking at Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, the people we fight with. I'm sure Yemenis are now on the list. So yeah, they're from people from countries that we're worried about.
So what's the SOP for dealing with those people? Like, what has the Border Patrol done traditionally in the past, and what have they been doing in the past 4 years?
In the past, I mean, back when there actually was a border, they were detained. They did traces. I mean, when I was with CIA, they would detain the guy and we'd run traces on him. The FBI would run traces on him. So you try and figure out who in the heck you got. All because they're from Iran doesn't mean they're a terrorist, but it doesn't mean they're not either. They could be someone fleeing the regime. Who knows? But yeah, you've got to keep them in detention until you know who you're dealing with. Now, I think they just basically give them a gift card and a cell phone and kick them out.
Interesting. Okay, so the next one that I pull up here is for you, Mike. And we briefly discussed this before we went live. So TdA was started in Venezuelan prisons by Tariq el-Assami, who is also Hezbollah's contact and main facilitator in that country. Some people think, and I agree, that TdA could be used by Hezbollah in the U.S. to plot and commit acts of terrorism. Venezuela is a threat. So this is not even just a matter of there being business relationships. This is the guy who kicked it off in the first place is an Iranian.
Yeah, clearly Circassian. Yeah.
Well, explain that for the benefit of our audience.
All right. So Circassia is one of the very northern parts of Iran, and up there on the in an area near Syria as well. And it's there's a lot of Armenians and the like. And you notice he's extremely light complected for that area. So
okay.
Yeah, they're about the only ones in that area that you're going to find like that. But yeah, that guy going way back is a bad actor, man. I mean, he's been, God, Jeff, how long has that guy been on the watch lists? I mean,
there was a watch list.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that guy. I remember that
maybe
guy.
An OG watch list guy,
Right. I mean, I remember that guy from before the war. So, I mean, he's been doing bad stuff in bad places for a very long time, and nobody, and I can't believe you guys didn't kill him at some point, man. I mean, come on.
Well, you got to find him first.
Keeps living in embassies and screwing things up for you.
Yeah.
So these guys, man, I mean, and he put himself, I was reading about him earlier. He got himself into a bunch of really awesome political positions in Venezuela and facilitated the hell out of all kinds of stuff. I mean, got a bunch of their guys moved out of one prison and over into the prison that they wanted them in so that they could form new networks there in Venezuela. It was wild. This guy was pulling the strings all over the place.
Well, and he's also getting Venezuelan passports for people by the gross, probably.
Right. Yeah. By the stack.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I don't know if you all had a chance to go through all the stuff in the brief. It's pretty big tonight, but this is pretty interesting here. So leaked Army advisory warns of migrant gang violence in major cities. And we've been discussing this for the better part of a year now. So there's nothing new there, but what is interesting here, we scroll down a little bit, the advisory states that TdA has established a presence in Brooklyn, Bronx, and Williamsburg, New York, with an estimated 400 gang members taking up residence in the boroughs. Additionally, the U.S. Army warns the gang has forged close ties to Iranian-backed terrorist groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah. So, S2, is that a topic you'd like to throw in some comments on, or do you want me to pivot to someone else?
Yeah, well, for starters, Assami is actually Iraqi. He's not Iranian. So his family had very close ties to the Iraqi government. His uncle was actually a member of the Iraqi Arab Socialist Ba'ath Party, as I mentioned earlier. And he's had a number of positions within the government. As I said, if the government's behind it, you're looking at the Socialist Ba'ath Party. He was the governor of Aragua to start with. So he, as you said, he was pulling strings there. He was recently arrested in April of 2020, or actually in 2023, as the petroleum minister. He was arrested for corruption charges and a bunch of other things too. So I don't know that he's actually a player on the chessboard anymore. He may have been moved out, but as far as the ties that TdA has with Hezbollah and Hamas, I'm sure that the Socialist Ba'ath Party is probably has their fingers in this too at some point. And they're probably some of the facilitators of the money going back and forth.
Yeah, very interesting. Check out this connection based on cell phones. So GPS update, there are now 431 mobile devices connected to Hezbollah Unit 910 in Chicago. Chicago may be ground zero for whatever is about to pop off. There's also MS-13, Tren de Aragua, an international version of Los Angeles 18th Street Gang, blah, blah, blah. What's interesting, if you dig deeper into this report, it discusses all of these phones being in the exact same location, like close proximity. Not all the time. They come together, have their meetings, and then they leave. And they've connected the Hezbollah phones in particular with the TdA phones, which I've found rather interesting. And then, Jeff, I want to go to you on this next one here because I agree with you. So I'm not sure why Fox News would say Tren de Aragua are ideological terrorists disguised as a street gang, warns former military officer. My impression is that they're highly opportunistic. They go where the money is, and they don't really give a shit what the ideology is. But this guy's claiming otherwise. Can you rebut that?
Well, I'm not a huge expert on this, but it may be there might be factions within the Tren de Aragua that are more ideologically driven. But I don't think the group overall is. I think they would probably sell their mother for the right amount of money.
So look at this paragraph and see if I'm tracking on the right direction here. So a former high-ranking Venezuelan military officer is sounding the alarm about the migrant gang TdA being used as a tool of the Venezuelan government to sow violence and discord throughout the United States. seems to me that that confirms what we're saying, that they're very opportunistic. They'll work for whoever will pay them money. The ideology, you have to go back to their customer, essentially, their financiers, the Venezuelan government, or do you interpret that differently?
No, I think it's, using them to sow discord is just, okay, the Venezuelans government has a contract with them to sow discord. Hezbollah may have a contract with them to move people into the United States. And the Venezuelan government has a little more leverage because they say, hey, you want your people out of prison here in Venezuela, do what we want you to do in the United States. You do X, we'll do Y. We'll cut some of your guys loose. I think it's very transactional, to be honest.
And that's my impression as well, but I don't claim to be, an absolute expert on it.
That's my opinion.
So, Mike, I'm going to circle back to you here. And this is essentially the end of our quick opener for people who are tight on time as far as having the Cliff Notes version of what's going on. The title here, The Threat of Iran-Backed Networks in Latin America. So those guards, whatever you want to call them, this is in Brazil. And it was a day before the Brazilian police arrested 2 people linked to Hezbollah. And if you carry on down through the article, it touches on Hezbollah, Hamas, and almost every major country in Central and South America having been infiltrated by this. So I'm not going to bore people by reading the article. You can go to patreon.com/survival dispatch, download the sit rep for today and read it to your heart's content. But I want to round out the opening with this, Mike, on just how extensive the terrorists have become, like Jeff said, in Central and South America. I think it's a lot more pervasive than the average American's aware of.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a couple of times as a fairly new thing. Now that you've got a resurgent Al Qaeda under the son of Osama bin Laden, forming his Islamic army, and a lot of these groups are coming up underneath that umbrella, and they're all saying, "Look, we all want the same thing. We all want the great Satan. We all want to go kick him in the nuts," right? And that's why you're starting to see more and more and more of these groups all working together. I mean, if you're seeing Hamas and the PIJ working together, they don't like each other. But if they're working together and ISIS is working with them, and say you wind up, you're also getting who's the guys out of Africa? Boko Haram.
Yeah.
And you get them. Heck, next thing you know, we're going to start seeing the Filipino groups in there. You're going to start seeing the all the other groups from the South Pacific Rim and the Indian Ocean. Now you got big problems, kids. You got real big problems because they're all working for the same thing, and they got a pipeline into the U.S. via TdA.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that, what comes to mind, Mike, I want to say a year ago, we were having a discussion on this, and you said, here's the problem is at the time, if we were to get Donald Trump back in office, and if we were to build the wall, you're not just defending people from coming from Mexico into America. You've got the enemy on your back flank as well.
Well, and also a year ago, we first started talking about TdA working with terrorist groups, and everybody said, "Oh, you're crazy. You don't know what the hell you're talking about."
So if I had some time on my hands, Mike, it's funny you should mention that. I thought that it would be kind of rich to go back through all of 2024 and all of the stuff that we covered and see what aged well and what didn't age well. I'm not saying that we bat 1,000% or anything like that, but we got a lot of this stuff right because we've been fortunate to, we've got good connections and good intel. But anyway,
I think we have Hall of Fame numbers.
Yeah, I think we're friggin' doing better than the friggin' National Intelligence estimate. That's for sure.
Yeah, well,
and that this is why I drink.
Fair enough. All right. So like I said, that's the intro, the Cliff Notes version for those people who are shy on time. Again, if you download the brief, you can go through the rest of it. later on. Before we pivot to a little bit more discussion on TdA, just want to mention our sponsors for this episode quickly. CCW Safe, the best self-defense coverage bar none, because they're not selling you insurance. Insurance is forbidden to pay you benefits if you break the law. 95% of charges are pled out, even if you're innocent. And then if you look at your self-defense insurance, it'll say they have a recoupment clause. CCW Safe, by far better and safer. Sawyer Products, best filters on the market, water filters, bar none, especially for your get home or go bag or bug out bag. Native Hydrate BCAAs, I'll talk a little bit more on them shortly. And we've got a new company on that's actually a friend of mine, Flex Industries. They make the fastest triggers on the market. You can see Mike's head shaking. So I sent Mike some prototype stuff. It's got to be coming up on a year as well. And the performance is very, very impressive. Put it that way. If you want the fastest triggers on the market, Flex Industries is the place to go. And by the way, we don't get affiliate money from them, but SD17 will get you 17% off. So, all right.
Well, fastest mechanical triggers.
Fair enough. Well, actually, just before we get into the rest of the TdA stuff, have you ever seen one of the electronic triggers, Mike, lose its mind by chance?
I think I was standing next to you when that happened. And as the range safety, I dropped the ball because, I was too busy laughing to take the gun out of her hand.
Let's be clear. I was not the shooter. It was not my gun. It was not my trigger. That shall remain anonymous. But let's say that the girl who had only shot a gun once in her life 10 years ago pulled an electronic trigger on a full auto, and she let go of the trigger, and the gun kept on shooting. And Jason Sawyer,
she hung on to it and she didn't kill any of the chickens, and she didn't shoot a hole in the side of my truck.
If it had happened to anybody else at that range day, no big deal. But it had to happen to the person with the least amount of experience. We didn't own the gun. It's not our gun. Wasn't our trigger. We didn't give her the gun. Just put it that way. It had nothing to do with survival dispatch. All right, moving on from there. Never a dull moment. Put it that way. So Scott posted up here. This is in October. So when he says Glenn Beck did a show on this 3 Wednesdays ago, it's going back into the end of September, but it's truly insidious. You should look it up. TdA isn't a gang. It's a paramilitary organization. Some are trained on Margarita Island off of Venezuela by, wait for it, Iran-backed Hezbollah, then sent to the U.S., and our government knows.
Yeah,
so,
Unit 910. That's their job.
Yeah, exactly. So, S2, I want to come back to you on this. Would you classify them as paramilitary based on the training they've got from Hezbollah, or a gang, or somewhere in between?
Where do you think Hezbollah got their training from?
Well, we know where Hezbollah got their training.
So I would say, yeah.
You would classify them as paramilitary.
I would classify them as a transnational terrorist organization is what I would classify them as. Every organization from the IRA to the PLA to whatever LA you want to talk about has some level of military training that's been given to them by either governments or people that have retired from the government or are contractors for the government.
So that sounds a lot more sophisticated than, say, the Bloods, the Crips, MS-13. Would that be a fair statement?
That would be a fair statement. However, don't discount the Bloods and the Crips. They got all their training on the street.
So just because this is in your wheelhouse, a question that's germane to the conversation but wasn't part of the brief. I've read stories, I can't, speak to the veracity of them, that members of Mexican cartels have come into America, got a green card, been hired in law enforcement and military roles as well. And then as soon as they get out, take that training back to their rest of their cartel in Mexico and kind of train the trainer type of situation. Is that happening to your knowledge?
Well, I know that it's happened with China. I know that we've had some Chinese folks in our military that have gotten training here and then gone back to China, but I don't really see where that's exactly important other than understanding what our methods of training are. But as far as the the illegals coming across the border and getting jobs as law enforcement or military. I'm not aware of any of that.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to move on to the next post, and this one is a long one. So this guy Nate did a super deep dive, and this is very current information. It was posted yesterday, and I want to say that there's 10, 11, 12 posts that make this up, where he highlights the historical incidents and connections between the Iranian proxy Hezbollah and Tren de Aragua, and all the research that we've done on TdA over the course of the past year. This is by far the most comprehensive when it comes to tying the organizations together. So I'll read them briefly, and then we'll have a discussion on each one as we go along. So terrorists have long utilized diasporas in Latin America. Interesting that you guys mentioned that beforehand. Largely, these diasporas have provided money and material support to groups like Hezbollah. This is due to large Lebanese communities being well established in different Latin American countries over the past century, developed as large immigrations took place from conflicts in Lebanon. So that picture is really fuzzy and it's not great, Mike. But can you speak to the outflux of people from Lebanon, not just to Central and South America, but to other parts of the world as well? And are they doing the same thing there? Are they bringing the terrorist mindset with them and, cooperating with illegals, gangs, whatever you want to call them?
Well, first of all, Nate's got his act together. So if you get an opportunity to follow him, definitely follow that guy. He's a great dude, knows what he's about. I had a great conversation with him just about this today. In Africa, yes, absolutely. China, probably not, but Latin America, Europe, Africa, yeah, they are stirring things up. They have been. And the reason that they wound up bouncing out of Lebanon in the first place was, hey, let's face it. Let's look at what Lebanon was like in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, that place was a hellhole, and it used to be the pearl of the Middle East. I mean, it was like Las Vegas over there. It was a gorgeous place in the 60s and 70s. And now, good grief, man. I mean, the only real reason that I wanted to go over there was because, somebody had an entire warehouse blow up with one of the largest conventional detonations ever. And I wanted to go over and study it. And then the stupid State Department slow rolled me. But yeah, these people are going over that automatically gives you, when you get to a new country, what do you look for? You look for your own people. Within your people or the people with your same interests. You go there, you utilize them. All right. So yeah, are they doing it? Absolutely. And heck, the ones in China, who knows? Maybe they're using their contacts in China for laundering money. Who knows?
Fair enough. So moving on to the second post in this thread that Nate put together. Hezbollah poses a major security threat to the U.S. by expanding its influence in Latin America through religious centers, collaborating with criminal networks for funding via drug trafficking and money laundering, training drug cartels near the U.S.-Mexico border, and radicalizing local Muslim communities. Jeff, can you speak to that last part on radicalizing local Muslim communities? Is there a larger Muslim community in Central and South America than I'm aware of?
Yeah, there is. And it's mostly the Lebanese. Now, not all these Lebanese people are terrorists. Now, most of them are just, they're hardworking businessmen, family people. They want, and you're from Lebanon, you've got a family business, and you've got 20 brothers. So you're not going to take over for when dad dies. So you go somewhere and establish your own brand, your own footprint. But you still have those connections back to your family. And so Hezbollah can use those. They contact some guy in Lebanon and say, we need somebody in Niger. Who do you got? Because the Lebanese are everywhere. And as Mike pointed out, the place turned to crap when their civil war went, they were doing artillery fights inside the city of Beirut with one neighborhood shelling another. So people who wanted to actually live and wanted their children to live got the hell out of there. and they went all over the world, and South America was ripe for the picking.
Very interesting. I'll give this one to you as well before I go to S2. But
I think Mike has something he wanted to say.
Yeah, real quick. They're in the tri-border region there at Ciudad de Este, City of the East.
Yep.
That is basically an open city down there. Nobody really controls it.
Okay.
And huge quantities. I mean, it's honestly, it's kind of like Casablanca during the Second World War. It is one of those places where if you want it, that's where you go to get it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Drugs, money, everything moves through that city.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what was the place on Tatooine in the first Star Wars.
Oh, Mos Eisley. Yeah, it's about the same.
There
yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
All right. So
you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
There you go.
Washington, D.C.
Good job. Right. Yeah, come on now. It was a science fiction movie. I mean,
sure it was.
Anyway, the group's foothold in South America is established with decades of history. An article written by NBC after an investigation highlights this facet. When interviewing a Paraguayan in Ciudad del Este, Mustafa Khalil Mari, he said, "We are Muslims. I am Hezbollah. We are Muslims, and we will defend our countries at any time they are attacked." So, Jeff, was this ever on your radar when you were on the CIA by chance?
Oh yeah, yeah. We followed all the, because of the connections to Hezbollah and Iran and everything else. Because Iran used those same networks of peoples. Well, I mean, Hezbollah is their patron. To get people in and out of the United States, in and out. You remember, Iran was active down there. They blew up the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires back in the day. I mean,
right there.
Well, yeah, they've been. Was that what that is? Yeah, they've been busy boys.
Reading is fundamental.
They're radical, and they'll, like anyone else, they'll use whatever they have to do to get their job done. And for them, the Lebanese population and the Hezbollah and Hamas, perfect opportunity. It'd be fools not to use them.
So how far back was this on your radar or CIA's radar? I mean, we know that there's lots of evidence from the 90s, Hezbollah and Sinaloa, but I'm assuming this goes back long before that.
Well, it was probably on our radar since terrorism began, but probably it really came up after 79, after the Iranian Revolution.
Okay.
And the Iranians were aggressively going after us, going after the Israelis, going after Iranian dissidents who, were pro-Shah.
Okay.
They go after anybody, anywhere.
Yeah, so just for the people who are on a phone, and the text is really small, notable attacks carried out by the jihadists in South America are as follows. 1992 attack on the Israel embassy in Buenos Aires, as Jeff mentioned. 1994 attack against Israeli Community Center, Buenos Aires, Argentina. 2016, Brazilian U.S.-Israeli intelligence collaborated to foil an attack on the Rio Olympics, which was planned by Hezbollah. So it definitely deeply connected. So here's your guy, Tariq Al-Assemi, S2. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to him or not. If not, we'll just move on to the next part.
Real quick, he's born in Venezuela. He is a Venezuelan citizen born. His mother is, I can't remember where his mom's from. She's Lebanese. And his dad was a Syrian Druze, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, interesting. I'll have a quick look for that when I'm not having to carry the conversation and produce it. But S2, is there anything else you'd like to add to him, or do you want to move to the next point?
You can move to the next point.
Okay, so the next point's on him as well, but it's ties, right? So Tariq Al-Assemi, former Venezuelan minister, is accused of aiding Hezbollah by providing passports and visas, expanding their networks in Latin America. His Syrian Lebanese background and political roles facilitated these connections alongside indisputable links to Iran and the IRGC. So I think you covered that pretty much in depth. If you don't want to add anything to that, we'll go on to the next one as well.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the way the whole network runs is this started back with Hugo Chavez.
Okay.
And when and Chavez was doing all kinds of heinous shit back then too. But when Maduro came in, there were already developing ties between the Mexican cartels, which would be the Jalisco New Generation cartel and Sinaloa cartel, and then the Venezuelan cartels, the Cartel of the Suns. And then the Cartel of the Suns had relationships developed with FARC-D and ELN in Colombia. And then Cartel of the Suns also developed relationships with Hezbollah. Mexican cartels developed relationship with FARC-D and ELN. And then from Hezbollah, it goes back to the Islamic to Bashar al-Assad regime, which is a very interesting tie there between IRGC and Hezbollah, because what just happened.
Okay, interesting. I'm actually just looking at his background. He was as you mentioned, he was in multiple different roles in the Venezuelan government, and even while he supposedly formed Tren de Aragua. Pretty crazy stuff, that's for sure.
Well, so, actually, I don't.
Dude, you're gonna have to do a wheel chart on that last set of points, man. Woo.
Well, actually, I don't think he started it. It was Hector Rusmanfor Guerrero Flores, who was known as Nino Guerrero, who actually started Tren in the prisons. He just facilitated the movement of all of the pieces on the chessboard.
Yeah, that may be. I just see he's frequently credited as the guy who essentially, I guess, funded it. Which now brings us to the point. Tren de Aragua was a state-sponsored terrorist organization, is used by the Venezuelan government to do its bidding with plausible deniability. This is corroborated by former Venezuelan sources and different agencies classifying the group as a terrorist organization. The government utilizes the gangs to establish networks in different countries, utilizing criminal activity to simply fund the organization. Terrorists now have an organization that is an ally who specializes in human smuggling, just as you mentioned, Mike, at the beginning. With recent discussions on possible terror attacks in America, this group stands as the greatest threat to facilitate movements into America, as they have established networks throughout South America, and the help of the Venezuelan government. It is paramount that this group is classified as a tier 1 threat at the federal level, and assets used in targeting them. Disrupting this group must come quick and soon. So what's interesting there, and y'all can add your comments to it as well if you want, is when Doc Pete, our good friend Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers, got the intel on the man pads being brought across the border, there were pictures of known members of Hezbollah with known members of the Sinaloan cartel with those man pads at the border. I mean, none of this is speculation, right, Mike? Like, this is all, there's concrete intel behind all of these narratives that.
Yeah, this is all solid.
Yeah. Okay. So appreciate that. So what's interesting with Nate too, I really appreciate him doing it. And this is one of the reasons we make our briefs available. He lists his sources for a lot of this stuff. So speaking of sources, if you want to go grab our sit rep or brief from tonight, it has all of these links in them if you want to dive into them even deeper. This is one of the resources that he quoted. So this is a Homeland Threat Assessment 2024. It's 38 pages long and touches on many of the things that we've already mentioned with regards to TdA. This next one is from a website that specializes on information related to Iran, especially Iranian terrorist activity. And the next one, which is pretty interesting, tda.securefreesociety.org. This is an interactive map. So you can go to this and you can click on your state. You can drill down to the city level and find really current information. So it's interesting. It seems like it was only a month ago we were discussing TdA being in something like 15 states. Now it's 22 states, 30 major cities, and 517 arrests year to date of TdA members in America. I mean, they've been here for a while, but they've really exploded in 2024. And
this isn't even up to date yet.
Yeah. And the next link here is a great resource on X, a Tren de Aragua tracker. The volume of information that this guy posts on Tren de Aragua was amazing. Mike and I were discussing a incident before we went live. And I mentioned to him how this guy had already published that information. I mean, it's fast and furious. So if you're concerned of TdA being in your area, highly suggest that you follow this guy on X as well, Tren de Aragua Tracker. And that is basically it for chapter 1 of tonight's episode. We've got a short message from Sawyer Products, and we will be right back.
The Sawyer Mini is the most versatile personal filtration system available. It's a perfect solution for backpacking, hiking, hunting, fishing, scouting, international travel, and emergency preparedness. At a mere 2 ounces, the Mini fits in the palm of your hand and can filter up to 100,000 gallons of water from any freshwater lake, river, or stream. The Sawyer Mini has a 0.1 micron absolute pore size. It was tested to 10 million parts of bacteria and 1 million parts of protozoa without a single breakthrough. This is the highest level filters can be tested to, so we're confident these are the highest rates of filtration available.
All right, so we're moving into chapter 2 now. I think we've got approximately 15, 16 news articles tonight. Usually we try and limit it to a dozen, and the way we do this is kind of a round robin. So first one will go to Mike for comment, second to Jeff, third to S2, and we'll just keep doing that until we've run through all of the headlines. All right, so first one up is breaking. Bill Gates has accountability coming in hot. He's been indicted in the Netherlands for lying to the public about COVID vaccines. Hope the YouTube censors don't smoke me for saying that. And he's going to have to go to trial. The crowd's reaction is perfect. I've listened to this video. I can't play this video on YouTube. We will absolutely get a strike if I play this. But Mike, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how Bill Gates went from somebody who stole somebody else's operating system, committed all kinds of antitrust violations, is now on a mission to save the world from farting cows, and wants to depopulate the world in pursuit of his, I guess you would call it utopia.
You know, these people, even when they see the world is going this direction, no, it can't be that. I must be right. It's got to be. I'm absolutely correct. 100%. This guy. You know, you want to say he's an idiot, but he's just a dirtbag.
I kind of think of him as like a textbook example of a megalomaniac.
Yeah, he's incapable of listening to an outside opinion once he's got his own opinion set.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
exactly.
That's a dirtbag.
So I got to change the order of tabs around because we've got one related to North Carolina, which I want to make sure goes to S2. So next one up for you, Jeff. In 1990, the U.S. produced 37% of the world's semiconductors. Today, it only makes 10%, putting our national security at risk. This shift didn't happen because we became too dumb. It happened because American workers were sold down the river through offshoring. So context, just so everybody has context, this comment is made in light of all the back and forth with H-1B visas, which we covered at length last night. But a question for you, Jeff. Obviously, there's powerful people that want to turn the tide the other way. In your estimation, how long would it take us to get back to where we were previously?
It would take a while because the reason we produced 37% of the world's semiconductors in the old days is we invented them, and everybody looked to us to buy them. But now we have a lot more competition. Taiwan alone, produces more than we do, and they've got a cost advantage that we don't. And a lot of these places like China do as well. Which is, if you look at American companies who sold their production, put their production overseas, that's why they did it. They did it to make more money, to lower their costs, and to, and then to produce these things at a margin where they can make a hell of a lot more money at it. It's happened, it's always happened that way. We used to produce, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania produced more steel in World War II. Inside the city limits of Pittsburgh than all of Germany and Japan combined.
Wow.
Well, where did that go? Well, it got too expensive. So we have overcapacity, and then they shut some of that down. And then, they said, well, I can make it cheaper in Japan. I can make it cheaper in China. I can make it cheaper, pick a country. The next big one's going to be India, because I don't think people have noticed, but India is now bigger than China.
Correct.
And
Yep.
China had the lowest birth rate. I just saw it today. The number of births in China in 2023 were the lowest since 1762.
Wow. That's crazy.
And that was during the warring period too.
Yeah, but they had no birth control.
Wow.
Amazing. All right. So next one's US too. With Samaritan's Purse based in Western North Carolina, an area pulverized by Hurricane Helene, the charity's chief operating officer, Edward Graham, told Newsmax on Friday that it won't stop helping until the job is finished. What are you getting in local news, just out of curiosity, as far as the Hurricane Helene relief is concerned? And then the next question to that is, as long as it takes to get the job finished, how many years are we looking at? I'm assuming it's years.
You're probably going to be looking at least 4 years just to get back to some sense of normalcy there. And I'm not paying attention to what the local news is saying because they're gaslighting everybody. I'm in direct contact with people that are on the ground there right now. And one of the things that I've heard is that the military or the National Guard has pulled back. The military has pulled back. And we have people, regular citizens and folks of members of things that start with the M word that we shouldn't say, that are actually still out there doing the work on the ground. They're saying now that people are losing their bridges and being cut off again in places like Avery County. They're saying that the Asheville, in the area of the Biltmore Village, the water was starting to collect in the streets and it was not draining. And we've got another storm that's come through here in the last couple of days that's causing some more problems here along those lines. So it's going to be one step forward, two steps back, it seems, until there is some kind of a push to move full steam ahead. And I don't think we're going to see anything like that until, sad to say, until Trump regains office again.
Yeah, my opinion is exactly the same on that. Appreciate that. All right, Mike, I'm not sure if you caught this. Yemen downs 13th U.S.-made spy drone. Yemen claims it shot down another MQ-9 Reaper drone, a U.S.-made surveillance and strike aircraft, during its operations against Israel at $32 million a pop. That's over $400 million worth of high-tech hardware Yemen has reportedly turned into scrap. Is this an accurate report, Mike?
So this is the 13th one that they claim to have shot down. I want to say the actual count is like 3 or 4, something like that. And the fact of the matter is, you take that 400 million worth of high-tech hardware, right? And then you turn that around and look at the hundreds of billions worth of hardware that Reapers have schwacked there in Yemen. Yeah, you know what? And no lives lost. Whatever, guys.
Essentially a good ROI is what you're getting.
Yeah, it's a real good return on investment. But no, they haven't shot down 13 of them. Yeah, they absolutely not shot down 13 of them.
That's what I figured. That's why I shuffled the deck a bit to make sure that one landed on you.
And Jeff, you're muted because
real quick, it's not the Yemenis doing it or the Houthis, it's the freaking Iranians.
Right?
Oh, yeah, the Iranians are the ones running the systems, absolutely. And then they get mad because, hey, you bombed a bunch of Iranians, did we? No, never mind.
All right. So next one up is for you, Jeff. German president declares X a threat to democracy. Frank-Walter Steinmeier has taken aim at the social media platform X, labeling it a danger to Germany's democratic process. External influence is a threat to democracy, Steinmeier stated, citing recent election interference in Romania and what he calls open and unabashed manipulation on X. He vowed to oppose all such attempts, asserting election decisions are solely made by eligible voters in Germany. This rhetoric echoes troubling chapters of Germany's past, from Eastern Germany's state-controlled censorship to the propaganda machine of the Nazi Germany. When leaders attack platforms that empower free speech, are they protecting democracy or controlling it? your thoughts on this? I mean, I think he should cry harder, but you know,
the hypocrisy is powerful in this one. Okay, let's start with Germany. What's he pissed off about? Because Elon Musk basically said the AfD is the only thing that can save Germany, and that's the Freedom for Deutschland party, which is they call it extreme right wing. But as Musk pointed out, he goes, there is nothing in their platform that is significantly different than what John F. Kennedy had in his when he ran for president in 1960. He says they're not radical right wing. But him bringing up Romania is really ironic because the EU stepped in and canceled Romania's election because they said there was Russian influence through TikTok. But it turns out it wasn't. It was influence from other European countries. So they basically canceled an election because they themselves caught themselves interfering in it.
Insanity.
And the Romanians should be, screw you, EU, we're getting out, because that's just nonsense.
I be honest with you, I'm surprised that the current installed administration here hasn't tried to make similar claims against the 2024 results. But we'll move on to the next one here for S2. So Bill Gates asked for Mar-a-Lago meeting. What do you make of this, S2?
That psychopath is fucking crazy.
One of these days, S2 is going to learn how to share his feelings with the group.
You gave me the easiest one.
Definitely not a hard one, but I think that he got caught giving money to Kamal, and he tried to do it through back channels, and it got blown out, and he didn't want it to get blown out. I think 50 million was the number. I think he was there begging for penance because I don't think Trump likes him.
Well, I have a concern. I'm going to say that I still have a concern over the fact that warp speed seems to have gone warp speed into everybody's rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And knowing that Gates was involved in it, and
True.
So was the Trump administration, that I'm wondering what kind of deal is being brokered here. Or attempted to be brokered between Gates and Trump. I don't know. They're all of these tech people are going down there now, and they're kissing the ring. But here's the fact of the matter is, if you keep snakes in your backyard, eventually they're going to bite you. So
True story. Yeah, well said.
Wow, that was some rare wisdom there, man.
There you go. All right. So this one's for you, Mike. Afghanistan, massive deployment of Taliban who have declared war on Pakistan. Some sources suggest that Taliban have already arrived on the battlefield inside Pakistan. Here we go again. Muslims killing other Muslims. What is the solution? Short video. If I didn't know better, I'd say their vehicles look like ours.
reminds me of the Beverly Hillbillies.
I'm not gonna lie. I think.
Okay, we'll stop it there.
S2. I think I got the easiest question.
Take it away, Mike.
Yes. Dance, my puppets, dance, my puppets. Wait, is it my birthday again? Because now I got the Afghans and the Pakis fighting, killing each other. Dude, it's like everything I ever wanted. I mean, can you fight the Iranians too while you're at it? That's like the only other thing I need in life.
The answer to the last question is let them.
Yeah, exactly. What's the solution?
I second the motion. 100%.
Send them all more ammo.
I mean,
they got plenty of it. Let them, please. And this is not a new thing.
Right.
God, no. That the Pashtun have gone down and fought the Urdus how many times now? God, you can't even count them. This is nothing but tribal warfare going way back. Let them kill each other. But wait, give me 5 minutes. I got to grab my 3D glasses, a lawn chair, and a bag of popcorn because I'm watching.
All right, moving on to the next one for Jeff here. Joe Biden thinks he could have beaten Trump, which is laughable. But the admission about Garland is telling. If he believes Garland was too slow to prosecute Trump over J6, then the argument of not being involved in any of the Trump lawfare just went out the window. Biden admits he wanted to go after his political opponents, period. And again, he's convinced that he would have beat Donald Trump, those 15 million make-believe votes that appeared in 2020 and disappeared again in 2024. Jeff, your thoughts on shit for brains here?
Well, once again, people will tell you who they are if you just listen. So all his protestations saying, I'm not involved, I'm staying out of it, is, of course, now clearly bullshit. But him thinking he could have won that election is yet more compelling evidence that he is completely senile. You know, the dumbest man in the world could not make that claim if he had any awareness about himself. But Biden has none. He's brain dead. And it's not even him anyway. It's Jill with her hand up his backside making his mouth move.
And there's a mental image none of us needed. Thank you.
Just for you, buddy. Just for you.
Just revert back to the image where you have Joe Biden looking at Trump lovingly.
Right.
Takes it all away.
No, I prefer the Hillary Clinton and the big red bikini.
Oh my God.
No, that was the unsee button.
Come on, man. Why is the wine gone?
It's right up there with the missing Christmas trees.
Too much. So I'm not going to bother playing this video because the headline for it says it all. This is for you, S2. FBI investigators on the Diddy case have seized snuff tapes recorded by Jay-Z and Beyonce, exposing their role in a series of ritual killings and sacrifices of A-list stars and their family members, including children, an industry insider reveals. That sounds kind of far-fetched to me, S2, because I would think if they had that evidence, they would have already arrested them. But then again, maybe not. What are your thoughts on this?
Given the current environment, anything's possible. I mean, if they're saying that people on the Diddy case have seized these things, and I think what needs to happen, I personally think that this needs to go into a SCIF, and prosecutors need to at least view parts of the tapes that they can stomach if this is true, and put out a statement saying, yes, it's true, and take them out.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm with you on that, but I would think that if they had that level of incriminating evidence, that something would have happened by now. That's all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they wouldn't be putting it out ahead of time. They would have had a sealed indictment.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Grain of salt, just because, okay, A-list star sacrifice, ritual killings and sacrifices of A-list stars. Okay, C-list stars maybe. A-list stars go missing, people notice. That's why they're on the A-list.
Right. Yep. Fair enough. All right, Mike, this next one up is for you. The Vikings will be the first ever NFL team to have an ATF team, anti-terrorist force, within the stadium during Sunday's game versus the Packers. This is kind of funny. This squad is used to neutralize any terrorist threats, which include streakers. Streakers are now a terrorist threat, and rowdy fans and suspected terrorists in the stadium. What do you make of this, Mike, as far as deploying snipers at an NFL game?
This is not the first time that this has happened. As a matter of fact, I'd say probably 75% of NFL games have got a SWAT team on duty in the friggin' stadium doing just this kind of thing. Now, shooting at streakers, that's just not cool, man.
That's just
too far. Wrong. I mean, rowdy fans. All right, as long as you're not throwing anything on the field, but I mean, as soon as you do, I mean, Green light, man. Smoke that guy.
It is the Vikings against the Packers.
You do this in Philly, you'll need more ammo.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably have a semi-auto.
Yeah.
Don't go bolt gun.
First thing that crossed my mind when I came across this was Minneapolis being Somalia essentially these days.
Yeah, you're going to need a Gustav up there then.
Right. All right, moving on to the next one for you, Jeff. Mayor of the sanctuary city, which is Denver, Mike Johnson says, I am willing to go to jail to block deportations. What are your thoughts on that?
Let's test his resolve. Let's send his ass to Leavenworth. See how he likes it. Give him a 20-pound sledge and a pile of big rocks and say, you stay here until you turn them into little rocks.
How many
not
politicians?
The nice side of Leavenworth either.
How many politicians get arrested and taken to jail before they stop this bullshit in sanctuary cities? One, two, one.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
First one, and the rest will go. Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah.
I thought this guy had already backpedaled on this.
He did, and now he's gone back to being on the offense again. So he probably has an attorney, city attorney, who says that he's within his rights to do that. He's clearly not. And harboring illegal aliens is a federal offense. So
he has a city attorney who wants his job. If he gets arrested, he can just slide in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on to the next one here. There's another passenger jet crash lands in South Korea. There were 181 people on this plane.
제보에 따르면 비행기는 착륙 중에 랜딩 기어가 내려오지 않았고 착륙한 뒤 활주로를 이탈해 공항 담장 끝까지가 폭발했다고 합니다. 다시 한번 전해드리겠습니다. 오늘 오전 9시 10분쯤 전남 무안공항에서 들어온.
So this is like the umpteenth Boeing jet that's had issues in the past couple of years. And most people are attributing it to their embracing DEI hiring and greatly lowering the quality of their staff. What's your take on that as to the bigger picture, not just this crash in particular, but the fact that one Boeing after another keeps having something like this happen? It happened in Halifax last night, for crying out loud.
DEI.
Say no more. Mike, there must be like some Sun Tzu, adage on people who are of limited words. They can express their opinion with 3 letters. For
Do your freaking maintenance.
How about hire people who are capable of doing the maintenance, not based on their skin color,
or actually let them do the maintenance? I mean, we were talking about those explosions with Tyson. They've had all those things. They've got the maintenance staff to do those things. They refuse to shut down long enough to be able to do some maintenance.
Right. Next one's yours, Mike, up on the screen. 23-year-old arrested for allegedly lighting woman on fire in North Carolina. And this was in yesterday's news cycle. This is the third recent incident that I'm aware of people setting other people on fire. 2 of them on the New York subway, this one in North Carolina. When I saw the second one come out, my first thought was, holy shit, is this going to become a thing on the subways in New York? Now this third one comes out. Now I'm thinking, is this going to turn out to be something like, the knockout game for the really sadistic amongst us? I think we're going to see more of this.
Yeah, you always get copycats on this kind of stuff. And that's just the way it is. And the thing that absolutely made me insane about the second one was when the city of New York came out and said, we're still not sure that there was another person involved.
Yeah.
Are you high? Come on.
Clearly.
Oh, that whole city is covered in closed circuit TV cameras. You can't tell me that there wasn't another person involved. People don't just spontaneously combust. It's normally not a thing.
So
this incident's important to note that this happened December 16th.
Yeah, so before.
Yeah.
So you have the first incidents on the subway where I can't remember who the news organization was, but woman catches on fire, not that she was burned to death. And then the second one, a different news organization yesterday said the same words. Man catches on fire. Really, man catches on fire.
In response to Mike's comment about people just don't spontaneously combust, I have 2 words for him: Richard Pryor.
Right.
That wasn't a spontaneous combustion. That was self-inflicted.
Yeah.
He had a lighter
and drugs.
Michael Jackson.
All right, moving on to the next one for Jeff here. Our friend Tom Holman. Tom just revealed that one of the companies that bought border wall materials for dirt cheap from the Biden regime reached out and offered to return the materials. Holman says the company is willing to give us that border wall product back at what they paid for, pennies on the dollar. If the regime succeeded in what they tried to pull, they would have damaged President Trump's border security plan. I'm glad it failed, but these crooks must go to jail for treason. So this is, some assholes that are part of this current installed illegitimate administration were selling off huge portions of the wall that didn't get erected, literally for pennies on the dollar, 42-foot sections, $5 a piece, just to sabotage Trump and the border wall. This one's for you, Jeff. I'll play the short video first.
And it's disgusting that they're going to take that border wall, which like you just said, we pay top dollar for, and selling it for pennies on the dollar. Now we got to rebuy it. It's ridiculous. However, a little bit of good news. One of the companies actually reached out to me, willing to give us that border wall products back at what they paid for it, the pennies on the dollar, giving us back for the same price. So I think Ken Paxton, the AG in Texas, took immediate action. I know I've been working with Lindsey Graham, taking immediate action. So right now, I think we got them stopped. But it's insulting. They wait 4 years just before we take control to sell a main piece of our plan to secure that border.
Nasty piece of work. I'm glad it stopped.
So I just make this quick comment, Jeff, as I've been saying for months. There's no way to square this stuff other than to conclude that our current government is under the direct control of our enemies. Every fucking thing these clowns in this bullshit administration have done has been anti-America across the board. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, what kind of fucking idiot gives away millions of dollars because they wanted to send a fuck you towards Donald Trump? These are treasonous people who deserve to be charged, tried, convicted, and duly sentenced. Your thoughts?
Well, at the very least, it's a criminal activity, because if you take government property and then you convert it, it means you sell it, but you're doing it at pennies on the dollar. Yeah, there's excess stuff that you can get gonga deals on, but this was a legitimate, purposeful, not legitimate, I should say, a deliberate, purposeful plan to dispose of property, government property, at way below value. If nothing else, just the scrap weight of the metal itself is worth more than what they sold it for. So this is no different than if you had done this and you sold it at full price and kept the money yourself, but they sell it for pennies for an ulterior reason. Is not in the government's best interest. They disposed of government property knowing full well they were not doing it with getting the government the best deal. So they should be arrested and put on trial for theft of government property.
Yeah, last I checked, there's some laws surrounding that whole kind of stuff. Yeah.
Total bullshit. Absolute total bullshit. So this one is the last item for chapter 2. So no comment necessary as to, I already mentioned the fact that this happened in Halifax last night, but it's another Boeing, and it just, the pattern goes on and on. I have not heard of any other planes having problems like Boeing planes in the past couple of years. It's routine. It's happening far too often. So
you need to stop calling them Boeing and start calling them Boeing.
Right. Oh, too funny. All right. Well, we're fixing to get into chapter 3, which is zany headlines, funny memes, all that good stuff. We got a ton of them queued up. As I go through them, if y'all want to comment on them, just interrupt me and go ahead and do that. I will mention the energy stack that I'm on right now includes the native hydrate branch chain amino acids. S2's got these as well. They actually taste good, and you'll see a notable increase in your energy when you take them. And something else both S2 and I have been taking is the NMN. Different manufacturers out there. FDA is trying to take this over-the-counter supplement and turn it into prescription only, so the big pharma can make the money off of it, not supplement companies. That alone tells you that it's effective. I don't know if it can do anti-aging stuff, which is claimed, but what I can tell you is a very notable increase in energy from that. And then the other thing that I've been doing, I don't have it right close to me, is the LifeWave frequency patches. Expect to hear more on that. Everything has a frequency, including everything in your body. That's how your heart fires, for example. Electricity from your brain to a junction box in your heart fires it. These frequency patches that companies have these days, they're the real deal. They have really beneficial stuff. There's a really famous SEAL, Michael Jacko. He's like the top guy at LifeWave. And I've had a couple Zooms with him recently. And he's 65 years old, looks like he's 45 years old, looks like he's at least 10 years younger than what he looked like 10 years ago. It's amazing. And it's all attributable to the LifeWave product. So with that being said, let's get started with the insanity. And actually, the first one is not insanity. This is more of a PSA. So Ben Berkham does some amazing work traveling around the world, not just the country, delivering amazing frontline news. And he's put up 4 seasons of his show, Law and Border, exposing Kamala, Biden, border trees, and the whole 9 yards. And you can get all 28 episodes now at the link. So go ahead and download our brief, patreon.com/survival dispatch. You can get it for free and go here. It's a fantastic series of information. It's very cutting edge. All right. So the next one here, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, so I went and found the video, and this is pretty comical. So what you have here is this test group of youngins, and they're discussing what their intelligence levels are at. And this one girl, you can tell, like a hardcore snotty bitch, she's got a doctorate and all this stuff, and she looks down her nose at everybody, including this young man who S2, I believe that he's in the Marines. And I want to say he's an electrician by trade, but this is pretty freaking funny.
I'm 21. I'm a high school graduate, and I work in the Marine Corps.
I'm 30 years old. I have my PhD in cancer biology, and I work in a biotech industry. Grad school, I went to University of South Carolina, and undergrad, I went to University of Florida. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so they asked her to rank everybody in order of intelligence without revealing the test results ahead of time. So this is like her prediction is that the Asian guy's number 1, she's number 2, and the white guy number 6.
2, I don't know, PhD, cancer biology scientist. I work in a biotech company. We make COVID-19 testing kits, stuff like that. And then 6. It has nothing to do with your background. I don't think you really have the highest EQ out of all of us. Tyler, he ranks last for me personally because the way he carries himself. He was ranking intelligence based on his point of view and not taking in other people's point of views. So number 1 is
So he wasn't respecting my feelings, so therefore he's stupid.
Raymond. Number 2 would be Kaylee. Number 3 will be Tyler. And number 4 would be Shada. Number 5 is Sean. And number 6 is Maria.
Did y'all catch this? So
it's the pointing and laughing that hurts the worst.
So let me see here. I can't see what the Asian guy's number is off the end, but it's over 133. The white guy who she didn't like was 131, black girl 131, second Asian guy 123, and she had the lowest IQ of 112. Oh my God. Sweet justice on that one. All right, check this out. New York is wild. No sleeping on the train, bro. Oh my God.
Makes you think it's a cattle car.
Yeah, this one cracks me up. This security guard was waiting her entire life for that.
Dink. Woo. Come here. You don't get away.
That's too freaking funny.
Lady, don't step up into a fight like that unless you're willing to get punched.
Well, that's what happens when you watch Netflix and you buy
Just
the
say,
bullshit.
don't get between the dog and the steak.
Too freaking funny, huh? All right, moving on to the next one here. Oh, this is great. Listen to how Joe Biden is greeted here. And this is posted, let me see, December 28th. So, most popular president ever. Most votes, most popular president ever. Y'all didn't get the memo? And this one, fantastic. Make way for the Queen's Guard.
This is not going to end well for this guy.
This is awesome.
One more time. Hey. Wait for the Queen's Guard! Funny, he can't do nothing. Wait for the Queen's Guard! Wait for the Queen's Guard! I'm just, it's fun.
The captain of the guard's going to
But he
get ready
can't
to
do
come
nothing.
out
He
and
can't
deal with you.
Listen, he's doing his job. Don't be an idiot. He can't do nothing. Ooh.
Yep. Could have seen that coming.
F-A, F-O.
There you go. And he certainly found out. You got a lot.
Problem is that poor private's gonna wind up getting written up for that.
Probably.
But I'm pretty sure that his corporal's gonna be like, "Shh, it's cool. Come on."
Never do it again.
It's funny, but it's not Christmas tree in your vagina funny. We set the bar really high with that one. So.
Yeah, that was somebody already brought that up at the very beginning off of YouTube. So
I'm not surprised. That's too freaking funny. All right, check this out. Dude saved his life with one hand without breaking a sweat.
He drives like I do.
Oh my God, that is so freaking funny.
Just took a quick look in the rearview mirror, like that guy's an idiot. Okay, well, I still got to get to school.
All right, so anybody who lives Hurricane Central like us will relate to this.
Oh,
damn! God, I felt that. Oh, that's harsh.
Again, it's not Christmas tree in the vagina funny, but it's pretty funny. This one cracked me up too, though. This is how you look when you left home and forgot to put your hair on and you blame Donald Trump. Oh my God. All right, let's clear up a couple of myths. Not a woman, not a hero. That's a mouthful there. Steve Bannon in reply to Elon Musk going nuclear over H-1B. So someone please notify Child Protective Services. Need to do a wellness check on this toddler. So
I mean, it's a good comeback.
You're damn skippy it is. This one's pretty good too. I like this. Let's make this simple. Good guys with guns, bad guys with guns. Good guys without guns, bad guys with guns. Pretty much sums it. Yeah, pretty much sums it up, right? All right. A breakdown on how the Democrat Party died. I need a VP that's dumber than me. I need a VP dumber than me. I need a VP dumber than me. Boys need tampons.
The terrible thing is that is incredibly true. It's awful. I mean, not the boys need tampons part, but the need
that's awful
dumber VP.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, in Minnesota, apparently boys need tampons. I mean, Tim Walz says so, so it must be accurate, right? He wouldn't fib about something like that, would he? All right, give me a second.
No nuts walls.
No nuts walls. All right, here's the next one here, and then this is how you can determine if somebody's an untrainable racist retard or a rocket surgeon, based on the whole H-1B discussion.
Excuse me, I happen to be the only rocket surgeon in the room.
Actually, you are. Good call. All
I'm
right.
a brain scientist.
Elegance versus couch upholstery. Yep.
Pulled that right off the drapes in the trailer park.
Yeah. This one's good. Call me silly, but sticking your penis in another man's butthole does not merit a special flag or a month-long celebration. Oh my God. All right. In 2024, Muhammad became the most popular name for baby boys in Berlin, Germany.
Germany is lost.
If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. All right. I grew up on Andy Griffin. I love that show. Dad, I think I'm a girl. Well, you're not. Thanks, Dad.
That's my favorite morning time show.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love it. All right. We need to kick all of the Democrats out of the Republican Party. Ain't that the truth? And on this day in 1845, Texas allowed the United States to join it.
That's how they feel.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. Hey, Snowflake, in the real world, you don't get a participation trophy. Not everybody is a winner. There are no safe places. Screaming doesn't make you right. No one owes you anything. Crying doesn't solve problems. Nothing is free in this world. People are going to say things that you don't like, and you are not special.
Words to live by.
Fairly pretty truthful, in my opinion. They say every joke has an element of truth to it. That one I think is pretty truthful. Give me 2 seconds to load up the next batch of memes here. We're getting close to the end. All right, here we go. Old Turkish proverb: when a clown moves into a palace, he doesn't become the king. The palace becomes a circus. That's an interesting one. A whole lot of truth there. Reminder: Jussie Smollett is a free man. Alec Baldwin is a free man. Hunter Biden is a free man. Grandmother who took selfies in the Capitol is in jail without bail. Imagine that. All right. In case of government tyranny, use the Second Amendment. And next one up, this is too funny. Somebody sent me this, and this is where I go for real news. It's called Survival Dispatch News.
By the way, that cat hates you.
Well, all cats hate me. So
right.
Whatever.
That's an
just reminding him that the cat hates him.
I'm not losing any sleep over it. That's for sure. All right. Listen, I got a 6-7 second video of our friend Tactical Carl with the 3MR trigger from Flex Industries. This is a legal trigger, and it's also not patent encumbered, and the performance is pretty spectacular. Check this out. Pretty impressive. It's not a forced reset trigger. There's different mechanics internally. Flexindustries.com, link below. SD17 gets you 17% off any of their products. All right. So homework wise, I think what I'll do is I'm going to rip through what we put together, 9 steps of homework. It's pretty extensive. If you're really keen on this stuff, based on the connection between Hezbollah and TdA and the threats that are posed to us here in America, you really want to download the brief for this alone because it's a little bit verbose. But number 1, stay informed, educate yourself about TdA's activities, signs, and methods through credible news sources like SDN and Sheriff's Office advisories. Understanding of the gang's operations will help in recognizing suspicious activities. Number 2, report suspicious activities. If you observe activities that might be linked to gang operations, or if you have information about gang members, report it to local law enforcement or anonymous tip lines. Number 3, community vigilance. Participate in or form neighborhood watch programs. There's a lot more that we put in the brief, but I'm just hitting on the top stuff. Number 4, support local law enforcement. Attend community meetings with law enforcement to discuss local crime issues, including gang activities. Number 5, advocate for policy changes. engage with local and state governments to advocate for stronger policies against gang-related activities. Number 6, educational programs. Promote or participate in educational programs aimed at youth to prevent gang involvement. Number 7, secure your environment. Take personal security measures. This includes fortifying homes and businesses with proper lighting, locks, and surveillance systems, and being cautious about sharing personal information or routines on social media, which could be exploited by gangs. Number 8, political action. Use your voting power to influence local and national politics regarding immigration and crime policies. And last but not least, number 9, volunteer or donate. Support or volunteer with organizations that work to help victims of gang violence or those at risk of gang involvement. The Remnant Ministry Texas would be number 1 on our list. Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers. One of their lines of efforts is specifically gang interdiction as it relates to child sex trafficking. That's it for my list. Mike, is there any other homework you can recommend people can undertake in light of TdA and Hezbollah invading America and being joined at the hip?
So I want to throw in on the support local law enforcement. My local law enforcement didn't have an intelligence gathering and distribution entity until I was stupid enough to go in there and discuss it with them, and wound up hosing myself and wound up now being the intel guy for my local sheriff's office. But I would throw one thing into there on support local law enforcement as well. You know, we see a lot of people that are like, you know, I don't want to, you know, there's a lot of bad cops out there. Okay, work with your local law enforcement agency, shine a light on them. Okay. If you see somebody that is a cop that's not doing the right thing, shine a light on them. Okay. You're an American. Act like it. That's all I got.
Good deal. Good deal. Jeff?
Yeah, what the hell he said. Yeah. No, you got to support your local cops, because when push comes to shove, you're going to need them. And, you know, they need to know that the people out there have their backs.
Fair enough. Fair enough. S2.
I'll add under your number 7 of securing your environment. If your firearm is more than an arm's reach away from you, it is too far away. No matter what room in your house you are in, always have that nearby, because there's been one of the things the TdA likes to do is they like to do these home invasion things. So give them a reason not to come through the front door.
Target hardening. Absolutely. All right. So last reminder, patreon.com/survival dispatch. Free membership gets you about 50% of the content. Paid membership gets you all the content, as well as an invite to our Signal group, which, Jeff, how many messages were on when you logged on today?
Over 600.
The volume of information flowing through that private chat for insiders is pretty extreme. Lots of camaraderie as well. On top of that, I will mention, by the way, back to the briefs for a section, we've added a restricted section at the end. So it's stuff that we can't put out there on certain platforms like YouTube, where we'll get more strikes. We're already working a couple off right now. Hopefully we get through 90 days without getting any more, or we'll be toast. I've also added a section on products that we recommend with links and discount codes. So if you're looking for any of the basics for prepping, a good place to start. It's in every brief from now on. And other than that, Mike, conflicted question falls on you.
Okay, conflicted question of the day for a little bit of emotional damage to everybody here. Okay, here's how we're going to do it. As usual, if you're not used to what we do, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to read it. We're going to go ahead and do the round robin here, but we want to hear from you out there in the audience. We want you guys, get into there. Go ahead. We want to see your ideas in the comments section. And you know what I want to see before that? I want to see some more likes. I want to see some thumbs up, because I'll tell you what, over in Rumble, I'm only seeing 39 likes. And I know there's a whole lot more people there. All right. So we better see them. All right. Conflicted question of the day. After the latest economic collapse, you became a small-time entrepreneur in order to provide for your family. Your government also needed more cash, don't they always? So it came out with new regulations, fees, and taxes you must pay. Now you must either shut down your business or operate it illegally. You just can't afford to pay these new costs. What would you do in this situation? This sounds incredibly familiar to me for some reason.
So we had a question that was somewhat similar, but different at the same time. And I'll go first because the answer is the same from my side, is that whenever this happens in history, it always results in a parallel economy where people barter stuff. So it just makes common sense, actually, for all of us, whether you're in America or not. If you're concerned that the shit may hit the fan, then you either not need to have tangible things that you can trade, say precious metals, food, those sort of things, or you have to have a skill that you can trade. So, if you're a carpenter, electrician, you'd be in good shape, those sort of things, mechanic, etc.
The brothel's full.
And there you go. Well, I believe the last time I answered this question, I said vices. If you've got vices at your disposal, they make great trading items, especially, cigarettes and alcohol, but brothels, sure, that's a vice too, right? All right, Jeff.
Hey, shout out to Wolfie Rex 7 over in Rumble for he's now a monthly supporter.
Thank you very much, Wolfie. We appreciate the support very much.
No, if it comes down between starving to death or going into the black market, baby, I'm jumping into the black market with a high collar turtleneck so I look cool while I do it.
Right on. S2.
I am going to shut down my business, set up a whole new corporate structure that protects me behind it, and I will own everything, or I will control everything and own nothing.
Like the WEF.
Right on. Mike, go ahead and bring it home.
I'm with a 2 on this one. I guess I'm going to have to go to black market bomb disposal work, and and work under the radar, and just I didn't make any money this year. Yeah, because
isn't that what you already do?
Hey, you shut your mouth. Don't need the IRS showing up at my house. No, I tell you, this is, and I've actually seen this happen back in 2016. Boy, I'll tell you what, my industry just bottomed out. Nobody was working, except some people were doing work on private jobs. That was the only way to stay alive that year. And I mean, it's a thing. It is a thing.
Absolutely.
The government is always stupid. And classic examples, when Soviet Union fell apart and Russia came up, everybody cheated on their taxes. Why? Because when you added up all the taxes, you were paying over 120% in taxes. So of course everybody cheated.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we've got a few things booked already this week. So tomorrow night, we've got Wayne Brown from Aggressor Adventures coming on. So many years ago, Wayne retired. He had 250 Pizza Huts and about 150 Taco Bells, and self-made man, by the way, and also has one of the 10 largest privately owned gun collections in the world. I'll add that in there. But he retired and then had the opportunity to buy this company called Aggressor Adventures. I want to say they had 7 or 8 yachts around the world at the time and specialized in deep. Yeah, you would know from Surviving Man, Jeff. Yeah. They were the guys in Belize. Well, now he's got 24 of them, and their prices are incredible. You can go down one of his smaller yachts that sleeps 20 people plus a crew on all like a 1-week vacation on the Nile. These smaller yachts can get into ports that the big ones can't get into. Everything included, White Star service, $2,500 for a couple. So your flights would cost as much or more. Yeah, the prices are really good. But he reached out to me and he wanted to talk to our audience with regards to real world examples of DEI destroying businesses. And he's a totally not DEI guy. He's a good old boy. Born in the country here in Florida, lives in Georgia now. A wicked smart guy, super guy, and really looking forward to that conversation. We also have General Valley coming back this week. to discuss modernizing our military and dive a little bit deeper into the document that he wrote for Donald Trump last year. So essentially, I want to say it's like a 7, 8, 9-page high-level overview of the general's recommendations on how Trump can bring our military up to snuff. And I think that's it for the two that we have booked. No, sorry. We have Mark Choppa on CHOPPA coming on Wednesday. Avid gun collector, super nice guy, lives in Maryland, and the ATF decided to raid his home at something like 4 a.m., had his kids at gunpoint. And they said that they had reports that he had some illegal stuff like machine guns, which he didn't. And they didn't even so much as apologize to him. It's a pretty crazy story, and we're breaking it. We'll be the first ones to have Mark on, and part of that's due to Todd Callender basically giving us the clear on what Mark can and cannot say with regards to pending litigation against the ATF now. So we got some cool stuff coming up this week. Other than that, we'll be tracking whatever's at the top of the news cycle. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.
Here we go.
Assembled here today are issuing a new decree to be heard in every city, in every foreign capital, and in every hall of power. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Every decision on trade, on taxes, on immigration, on foreign affairs will be made to benefit American workers and American families. We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries making our products, stealing our companies, and destroying our jobs. Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. America will start winning again, winning like never before. We will bring back our jobs. We will bring back our borders. We will bring back our wealth. And we will bring back our dreams. We will build new roads and highways and bridges and airports and tunnels and railways all across our wonderful nation. We will get our people off of welfare and back to work, rebuilding our country with American hands and American labor. We will follow two simple rules: buy American and hire American.